Have humans already visited Mars? Either in recent times, or possibly even in our distant past? And could images beamed back from various probes provide any proof of this? Or is it just another case of paradigm? Strap yourselves in. This one is well and truly out of this world. (180 outbreak plus expected), and bottling down to 76%. Program is complete, and cellos are operating the sound barrier. Mars, the second closest neighbor, is cold, barren, and deadly. Orbiting at an average distance of 142 million miles from the Sun, human beings are yet to set foot upon this small, unforgiving world. Or are we? Mars is undoubtedly the next stepping stone in our ongoing exploration of the solar system. But does mankind have a much greater link to the red planets than we realize? Have we secretly already visited Mars? Could ancient civilizations have traveled there, or maybe even have originated there? Back in 1976, the Viking 1 spacecraft in orbit around Mars was tasked with photographing the Martian surface and beaming the images back to Earth for analysis. This was so that NASA could locate and select suitable landing sites for its sister ship Viking 2. In late July of that year, Viking 1 sent back 18 images of a region in the planet's northern hemisphere, which had, up until that point, remained uncharted. Little did NASA know it at the time, but one of those images would go on to capture the public's imagination for decades to come. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than a fairly expansive and unremarkable plateau. But on closer inspection, tucked away in an area covering no more than 25 square miles, mission controllers were startled to see what resembled a huge, human-like face staring back at them. This face was surrounded by a number of other, unnatural-looking structures, which initially raised a few eyebrows. But when examined further, NASA officials simply deemed these anomalies to be optical illusions and released the pictures. Regardless, the notion of civilizations on Mars had been a huge part of science fiction culture, the well over a century by this time. And when the image finally went public in the weeks that followed, imaginations understandably run wild. Aside from the face, all the features within the same area were singled out, such as the city and the five-sided pyramid. Conspiracy theorists claim that there was no way these structures could have formed naturally, though geologists largely disagreed with this. Even so, the region became known as a Sidonian complex, and in the wake of its discovery, it has inspired many science fiction writers and alternate history theorists alike. Over the years, sensationalism over the Sidonian complex gradually evaporated as both the European Space Agency and NASA released more images of the region from different angles and altitudes and at greater resolutions, which revealed the face to be nothing more than a large mesa of jagged rocks. The official explanation was, when viewed from just the right angle, tricks of light and shadow combine to give it the spooky appearance of a face looking back at us, but in reality,
it bears little to no resemblance
as such.
However, some proponents of the ancient Martian civilization theory
remained unconvinced,
declaring that these new images
were forgeries on the parts of both NASA and the European Space Agency in order to cover up the truth. Subscribers to this belief were largely alone in their assumptions. That was at least until 2004. When the NASA rover's Spirit and Opportunity touched down on the surface of Mars and began transmitting some very interesting images back to Earth. This image was captured by the Spirit rover in 2005,
and for almost 10
years it sat in NASA's archives
without so much
as a whisper of anything untoward.
It wasn't until
2014
that the more
eagle-eyed observers amongst us noticed something strange,
and
all the attention was suddenly
on this rock
in particular.
On closer inspection, it looks very much like a human or humanoid skull, half buried in the Martian soil. And whilst one might simply put this down to even the most
ardent of skeptics would have to agree
that its resemblance
to a human skull is rather striking.
Spirit continued
to send back more anomalies, supposed rocks which closely resemble elongate. Which is depicting more of these odd skulls.
These
pictures lead many to believe
that ancient
civilizations
were somehow
able to travel to Mars,
but that they
even originated there.
There are
countless prehistoric cave drawings,
ancient
works of art and painting, which are believed to depict visitations by UFOs and interactions with extraterrestrial beings. And whilst many skeptics would argue that this is purely down to interpretation, it is not beyond all possibility. Unfortunately, the Opportunity rover became unresponsive in 2010.
Both spirits
and curiosity
continue to transmit
images to this day,
and some of them
are quite peculiar, to say the least.
Schools
aside, this image captured by curiosity
appears to show what looks like a thigh bone, and it is just one of many more alleged images
of bones on Mars.
This one,
it has to be said,
looks very much
like the head of a statue.
Whilst these pictures are quite compelling for some, and hard to believe
for others, things are about to get even weirder. In July 2nd, 2014, an ex-US Marine going under the pseudonym of Captain K reported to the press that he had spent 17 of his 20 years in the Navy, posted on the Red Planet, protecting 5 human colonies from indigenous Martian life. What's even more astonishing is that he is not the first person to speak out in public about these supposed Martian habitats. 3 other so-called whistleblowers by the names of Michael, Ralph, Randy Kramer, and Corey Good have also provided testimonies regarding lunar and Martian bases and a top-secret space program, which all seem to corroborate Kay's account. Even Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, claims that covert efforts were made in order to recruit her as part of a colony on Mars that was headed by famed physicist Dr. Hal Puthoff. Once again, pictures from Martian rovers have played a big role in promoting these revelations, with many conspiracy theorists insisting that they have found proof within those pictures that all is not as it seems on the Red Planet. They have cited the following examples in particular.
The Sasquatch.
The Sasquatch.
This image
is said to show a Bigfoot-like creature running down the side of a hill,
and whilst it could just be
another rock,
its
coloration does look somewhat at odds with its surroundings.
The Guardian. This shot seems to depict
what looks like a small figure running towards the rover whilst waving its arms as if to ward off an intruder.
Particular
attention has been drawn to what looks like a plume of dust rising behind it.
The
Watcher. This rather eerie image shows what looks like a small, dark figure standing on top of a distant cliff, observing the rover as it passes by.
This picture was
taken just before sunset and appears to show some sort of light in the distance.
Skeptics have said
that this could be a geyser of some sort, but no activity of such has ever been observed on Mars. Also,
why would it be
illuminated in this way?
Finally, this image is said to be of a UFO flying across the surface of the planet
during the afternoon.
This one in particular
is rather interesting,
as it cannot
simply be explained as a misidentified bird or otherwise.
And there are numerous
photographs of supposed UFOs on Mars besides this one. So the possibility of being a one-off anomaly in the photograph itself is greatly reduced. So do any of these photographs provide unequivocal proof that the rovers aren't alone on the Red Planet, or that they have captured pictures of bones, human or otherwise? Unfortunately not. The images are far from conclusive. The bones and other anomalies are, in all likelihood, nothing more than odd-shaped rocks. It is well within human nature to see familiar patterns, particularly those of faces, when looking at random markings or objects. This is known as and it is the most likely explanation for what we see in these photographs. And what are of the supposed secret space program and Martian colonies reported by Captain K and other supposed whistleblowers? Whilst these accounts do make for a fascinating read, not one of those individuals has provided any proof whatsoever of their experiences, and until they do, we're stuck with the official narrative regarding human exploration of the wider solar system. But don't let that assumption deter you from your belief. If you're inclined to support any of these ideas, the thought of humans having visited or even originated on Mars is a fascinating one, to say the least. The solar system is ancient, and particularly for those who believe in life beyond the stars, it is highly probable that we will one day find the fossilized remains of an alien life form within our solar system or elsewhere. And let's not forget the possibility that what we are actually looking at in those images could, in fact, be bones, or that Captain K, Michael, Ralph, Randy Kramer, and Corey Good could all be telling the truth. Until we know for sure, we should always keep our minds open